DICE are back at it again, bringing us new patch notes filled with delays and a real disappointing feeling for the community. We were expecting new maps and some features that DICE promised would be here with Chapter 4. However, that's not going to be the case, and things have yet again been pushed back to another chapter. As usual, I've included a selection of patch notes down in the description below, some links to some different patch notes and Reddit posts that you can check out if you're looking to read through the things as opposed to listen to me talk about them. And in this video, I'm of course going to go through the update 4.6 full patch notes and what's new, what's coming, and what has been omitted and maybe even cancelled from DICE's plans. The main things that DICE have introduced with this patch: first of all, we've got Al Sundan, which will be made available for Conquest and Breakthrough shortly after the release of this update. And with this patch, they're also dropping in the files for Operation Underground, but they're not actually launching it. That will come in October. More about that later. This update will also rectify the display issues related to latency, fixes the issues with loot in Firestorm, and improves the responsiveness of revives across both Battlefield 5 multiplayer and Firestorm. Three things that people have been asking for a while, and it's nice that these bug fixes continue to roll into Battlefield. Sidearms have seen a balance as well across the board, and there's been a change to the range of motion when prone, meaning that MMG boomers will no longer be as effective as they used to be. The sort of person that flops around on their back trying to get themselves a load of kills whilst remaining bipoded will not be as effective. They've also overhauled the logic and UI for ammo, health, repair stations. This is pretty decent to see as well because they were very irritating. New weapons and gadgets, including the Trench Carbine, Madsen MG, and Fliegerfaust, I think it's called. They're dropping as well through October, but obviously you'll have to wait a little bit because they'll come in the form of weekly challenges. There's a whole list of other maps and modes that have received fixes, pretty much across the board, the usual stuff that you see in these patch notes. And as I mentioned with the weapons, some sidearms have received a buff. The Ruby, for example, now has an increased 4-hit kill range from 7 to 12 meters, things like this, just basically making the sidearms better, which is pretty good to see. The Mark 6 revolver has had another nerf, meaning that they're going to be pretty even across the board, I'd say, from now on. So what's being worked on for Chapter 5? Well, we have the Pacific, of course, and that's going to have a whole load of stuff included. DICE have teased a lot in the past, but we can be pretty certain that it's going to be a handful of maps and almost like a classic DLC that we've seen in previous games, although it will be free. Private games, they've obviously been put on hold from Chapter 4, which is a massive shame. Another issue with communication from DICE saying that they would be here in Chapter 4 and then waiting until the last day before saying that they're not. That's a shame, but hopefully they'll be here in Chapter 5. And then further improvements to game performance and stability. I'm pretty certain we'll see that in every chapter from now until the next Battlefield releases, because the game certainly needs it. A lot of people were talking about changes to MMG gameplay with balances and things like that. DICE have gone for the prone gameplay approach, changing some things to do with proning and what you can do when you're on the ground. Then they will explore changes for bipod behaviour. That's quite interesting to see, and I'm actually glad they're going about it in this way, going step by step to find a good solution. Sometimes when you just make an overhaul to everything, things obviously just don't work. There's no way they can test that properly, so doing it this way will definitely have a better understanding. That being said, it's another situation where DICE have not communicated this. Everyone's expecting MMG changes. They even said that was coming, and they haven't brought it. They've just changed prone gameplay, which isn't the same thing because other weapons can be used when prone, not only MMGs. Again, bad communication from DICE, and that's not the first time I'll say that in this video. When it comes to private games, I'm disappointed, and so are some other content creators. Tweets from them can be seen on screen now. This is a shame. Private games are really important in the Battlefield game. They should have been here from day one, and in my opinion they're the only thing that can save Battlefield 5 because people can have the experience they want. Adam Freeman, or Part Welsh as you'll know him, the community manager, has come in and said that the September update will not enable private games as they'd hoped. It's absolutely coming to BF5, but we have slowed our progress here in order to keep our focus on fixing issues and ensuring that you're receiving the right standard of quality with each update. Our next blog from the dev team will be detailing the full features that we're expecting with the first release of private games, and this feature is now planned to release during Chapter 5. What do I take from that? Well, it's clearly not ready. They haven't spent enough time to get it into a workable state, and when they say it will be released during Chapter 5, that means at the end of Chapter 5, so maybe we won't see it at all. That's really worrying to see, especially as they said it would be here in Chapter 4, and we're dropping back months for a feature that should have been here from day one. For those Firestorm fans, unfortunately the new radically different looting system that they were talking about, as well as respawn mechanics similar to Apex, have been put on hold, I'm guessing permanently, as they're re-evaluating the focus of their efforts on restoring quality to the core of the Battlefield experience. Essentially, they're fixing all the stuff that they've broken and trying to play catch up for all the stuff that they've missed. This means that certain things will be canned or put on the shelf. Firestorm loot changes and the respawn mechanic are one of those changes that we will not get anytime soon. A rather depressing but truthful meme that I found on Reddit can be seen in the background now. This is Chapter 4, Defying the Odds. This is what we were promised. Let's take a look from top to bottom. Defying the odds, well, that's been crossed out. The uniform you see in the background, we haven't had either of those yet in the game. Moving down, Alson Dan, that wasn't here in June, that's here in September. That's taken a long time for that map to be fixed. Marita, yes, we did get that basically on time. It's quite a good map, a lot of people enjoy it. A lot of people don't, but there we go. At least they delivered on their promise. The next part, Close Quarter Combat, didn't receive any of those cosmetics yet. And again, the new maps. Well, did they come in August? I think they came in September. Moving on to Firestorm changes, none of that has arrived. The multiplayer, new vehicles, no. New gadgets, not yet. Only some new weapons. And then finally, well, we can just forget about the final sector of that image. This is disappointing. Chapter 4 has basically brought us Marita and a very delayed Alson Dan with two 5v5 maps that I haven't even played yet because they do not interest me in the slightest. They're not Battlefield Conquest maps. They're not really the sort of maps I expected with Chapter 4 defying the odds, but there we go. Now, the issue here is twofold. Firstly, we have issues with Battlefield 5 not being the game it should be, DICE not releasing the content that they said they would, and the game suffering. The community have had to put up with loads of this stuff over the last 8 months, 9 months or so. On the other hand, you have the additional issue of communication, and it's not anyone's fault in particular. I think it's just the entire process that DICE are going through. You have so many crossed wires, you have so much misinformation out there, and then you have people speculating on what will happen. It snowballs, gets out of control, and there is only one way that can end, and that's with the community disappointed because there is nothing DICE can do to fix it. If they had the content, then they could release it, and obviously everyone would be happy, but as they don't have the content, they have to mitigate that, and they're really doing quite a poor job of it. The community managers, obviously, they're sitting in a room that's on fire. What can they do? They're trying to be as pragmatic and informative as possible, and they're doing a great job. They're doing a better job than I could do. But something else is going on in the background. I don't know what it is. I don't work there, but it's not good. Even Westy is tweeting this sort of stuff, and he's Mr. Positive when it comes to Battlefield. So if he's saying this, then clearly the rest of us should be saying something similar. So what do you think of the new update? Let me know in the comments down below. I think it's definitely a positive, as long as it doesn't break anything. If Operation Underground comes relatively soon, first few weeks of October, I'll be happy, and if private games come at the start of Chapter 5, I'll be happy. But who knows? Maybe DICE are stockpiling a few things for us in Chapter 5. That's what I'm hoping they're doing, to make it an even better update than it could potentially already be. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.